Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're embarking on a profound journey outward, starting from the antiquities of Earth and venturing into the vast, silent depths of interstellar space. We'll be exploring mysteries that actively bridge the gap between ancient history and modern astronomy.
To really understand the universe, we actually have to look backwards first. We have to look at humanity's oldest observations and ask, did our ancestors witness phenomena that we are only just now beginning to comprehend? The cosmos has always provoked our deepest questions, but the records left behind by early civilizations, along with anomalies discovered by modern astronauts, strongly suggest that the narrative of our technological and celestial history might be far more complex than a simple, straight line.
Section 1. Ancient Aviation, the Vimanas. Let's begin our journey right here on ancient Earth, where age-old Indian epics describe these magnificent, soaring structures known as Vimanas.
We're not just talking about mere mythological chariots here. Texts like the Vimanas Shastra give us startlingly mechanical descriptions. They hint at ancient propulsion systems that go far beyond simple combustion. This text actually speaks of structural durability, vertical ascents, and power latent in a Mercury engine that sets a driving whirlwind in motion. That is an astonishingly technical vocabulary applied to what historians traditionally classify as pure myth.
What's genuinely fascinating is that modern aerospace researchers are actually attempting to reverse engineer these ancient Sanskrit verses into sophisticated, mechanical blueprints. Back in 1923, detailed technical drawings were drafted based entirely on descriptions from the ancient texts. Today, researchers analyze them not as folklore, but as functional manuals detailing incredibly complex aerodynamic designs. Now, while mainstream historians generally view these as profound mythological visions reflecting a highly imaginative culture, researchers point out some uncanny textual parallels to modern technology, like AI-guided drones and zero-fuel propulsion theories. The texts specifically detail 31 distinct machine parts and recommend 16 heat-absorbing metals with names that actually remain untranslatable to modern material science. So whether ancient texts recorded actual advanced technology or just showcased an incredibly prescient imagination remains a subject of intense interdisciplinary debate.
Section 2. The Baghdad Battery Enigma. We're moving forward in time, but staying on Earth, to confront a physical artifact from the 1st century Parthian Empire. It's an artifact that fundamentally challenges our conventional timeline of technological evolution.
This artifact literally bridges millennia. When you contrast the original 2,000-year-old copper, iron, and bitumen components with a rigorous modern electrochemical test, some surprising realities emerge. For decades, researchers struggled to prove any practical utility. That is, until recent experiments looked closer at previously ignored details, like the tin solder on the copper and the porous nature of the unglazed clay jar.
Here is the crucial point. By accounting for that tin solder and treating the clay jar as an aqueous tin-air outer cell, modern scientific recreations have successfully generated over 1.4 volts of electricity. To put that in perspective, that's roughly the equivalent of a modern AA battery. This is a massive breakthrough. It proves that the specific arrangement of these ancient materials functions perfectly as two batteries connected in electrical series. It creates an electric potential that is fully capable of driving noticeable, useful reactions, like electroplating metals or even the electrolysis of water.
So we find ourselves at a fascinating intersection of history and physical chemistry. On one side, mainstream archaeologists maintain that these jars were simply meant to safely store sacred scrolls, pointing out that similar vessels contain traces of papyrus. But conversely, electrochemical researchers point to the highly specific, utilitarian design of the metals, a design that perfectly mimics a galvanic cell.
Section 3. Apollo, UAPs, and lunar anomalies. It's time to leave Earth behind. This explainer moves to our nearest celestial neighbor, the Moon, where modern astronauts encountered some deeply mysterious phenomena.
You might assume unusual lunar observations are a modern invention, but they actually span centuries. They peaked dramatically during the intensive visual monitoring of the Apollo missions, but historically, they go way back. In fact, NASA commissioned a catalog of nearly 600 anomalous lunar events dating all the way back to 1540, just before the Apollo 11 landing. This indicates a serious historical precedent for lunar mysteries.
NASA's historical records encompass hundreds of what they call transient lunar phenomena. It represents a somewhat grudging scientific acknowledgement that the Moon might not be an entirely dormant world after all.
These TLPs appear as sudden bright flashes, reddish patches, or hazes that last anywhere from a few seconds to several days, and they've been observed by amateur skywatchers and reputable scientists alike.
Furthermore, declassified Department of Defense UAP files reveal that highly trained Apollo astronauts captured compelling photographic evidence of anomalous lights and potentially even physical objects. Buzz Aldrin and other astronauts reported unusual streaks and flashes. Apollo 12 captured a strange light hovering above the horizon, while Apollo 17 documented 3 mysterious dots in a precise triangular formation. A feature, by the way, that a preliminary U.S. government analysis suggested could potentially be a physical object.
Yet we have to look at the interdisciplinary hypotheses that offer rigorous natural explanations for this. Many scientists attribute these luminous events to radioactive radon gas release or irregular Mar patches forming less than 100 million years ago. Studies from Columbia University strongly correlate TLPs with lunar outgassing. What's more, the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter recently discovered that features like the Ina Depression are actually incredibly young volcanic deposits, perhaps only 33 million years old. That proves the Moon's interior is much hotter and far more active than we previously believed.
Section 4. Tabby Star, Deep Space. For our last stop, we're journeying 1,470 light-years out into deep space to confront arguably the most baffling astronomical anomaly discovered by the Kepler Space Telescope.
The foundational question regarding Tabby Star revolves entirely around its mysteriously missing starlight. This was initially detected by vigilant citizen scientists. While reviewing Kepler's massive data sets, volunteers for the Planet Hunters project noticed dimming patterns that made absolutely no sense under our standard planetary transit models. The scientific paper announcing this discovery was even subtitled, "Where's the Flux?"
The sheer magnitude of this celestial mystery is captured by one staggering number, a 22% drop in the star's brightness. That is an obstruction far too massive to simply be a Jupiter-sized planet. Consider this. When a massive gas giant like Jupiter crosses the face of our Sun, it blocks about 1% of the light. Blocking 22%? That requires something of an almost incomprehensible scale.
Multi-wavelength observations reveal a century-long fading trend, compounded by erratic week-long dips. This makes the star a genuine 1 in 300,000 cosmic oddity. It doesn't just dip suddenly either. Archival photographic plates show it slowly faded by 20% over the entire 20th century. Plus, later observations showed it dims quite differently depending on the wavelength of light you're looking at. Naturally, an anomaly of this magnitude sparks some extraordinary theories, most notably the hypothesis of an alien megastructure, like a Dyson swarm, which would be an immense array of solar collectors built by an advanced civilization. However, there's a catch. The star dims more in ultraviolet light than in infrared, which is a smoking gun for astrophysics. A solid alien megastructure would block all light equally. Dust particles, on the other hand, filter ultraviolet light more heavily. So this leads the current scientific consensus to favor an uneven ring of fine dust, or perhaps a massive swarm of shattered exocomets circling the star. From the mechanical Vimanas in ancient electrochemistry to the flashing craters of our moon and the dusty shroud of Tabby's star, this explainer highlights how our universe continually challenges us to look closer. So as we trace the unknown from ancient Earth all the way out to the stars, we have to ask, what other profound cosmic truths are still waiting out there in the dark? Keep observing, keep questioning, and never stop looking up.